Israeli and Iranian flags, maps of the Middle East, and footage of protests and military exercises. The conflict between Israel and Iran has evolved into one of the most significant geopolitical struggles in the Middle East. Rooted in ideological, political, and regional rivalries, it spans decades and continues to shape global security. In this video, we'll dive deep into the history, current situation, and the alliances that drive this ongoing confrontation. Historical context. Timeline from the 20th century, with visuals of Iranian and Israeli leaders like the Shah of Iran, David Ben-Gurion, and Ayatollah Khomeini. To understand the Israel-Iran conflict, we must look at their early history. Before the 1979 Iranian Revolution, Israel and Iran enjoyed cordial relations. Under the Shah, Iran was one of the few Muslim-majority countries that recognized Israel, and the two nations cooperated on economic and military ventures. Israeli-Iranian cooperation projects, oil pipelines, and military exchanges. But this relationship changed drastically in 1979 with the Islamic Revolution in Iran. The new regime, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, rejected Israel's existence and labeled it a Zionist enemy. Iran's leadership began supporting anti-Israeli groups, most notably Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. Khomeini's speeches and protests in Iran. Escalation of tensions. Key events like the Israeli invasion of Lebanon in 1982 and the rise of Hezbollah. Tensions escalated throughout the 1980s and 1990s as Iran began to sponsor groups that posed a direct threat to Israel. The most notable of these is Hezbollah, a Shiite militant group based in Lebanon, founded with Iranian backing. Hezbollah has fought several wars with Israel, and remains one of Iran's key tools in its proxy conflict with Israel. Hezbollah fighters, rockets launched into Israel, and Israeli strikes on Lebanon. Meanwhile, Israel has responded to these threats with targeted military actions, intelligence operations, and airstrikes, particularly against Hezbollah and Iranian proxies in Syria. Maps showing the Iranian presence in Syria and Israeli airstrikes in the region. Iran's nuclear program and Israel's response. Iranian nuclear facilities, international negotiations, and Israeli protests against Iran's nuclear ambitions. Another critical component of this conflict is Iran's nuclear program. Israel views a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat. While Iran insists its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes, Israel and many Western nations believe Tehran seeks nuclear weapons. The signing of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, JPOA, and Israel's objections in response, Israel has launched covert operations, allegedly assassinating Iranian nuclear scientists, sabotaging nuclear facilities, and pressuring world powers to stop Iran's nuclear ambitions. In 2020, Israel was suspected in the assassination of Iran's top nuclear scientist, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. Show visuals of Mossad operations and the aftermath of sabotage attacks on Iran's Natanz nuclear facility. Current situation, 2024. Footage of current military activities, including Israeli airstrikes in Syria, Iranian-backed militia movements in Iraq and Syria, and Iranian missile tests. As of 2024, the conflict between Israel and Iran continues to simmer. Israel regularly conducts airstrikes in Syria to prevent Iran from establishing permanent military bases and transporting advanced weapons to Hezbollah. Iran, in turn, continues to expand its influence through proxy militias in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Ongoing military confrontations and diplomatic tensions. While Israel and Iran have not directly engaged in a full-scale war, their conflict plays out through a shadow war of intelligence operations, cyber attacks, and proxy battles. Additionally, the future of Iran's nuclear program remains uncertain, with periodic attempts to revive the nuclear deal, JPOA, after the US withdrew in 2018. Allies of Israel. Israeli leaders meeting with US presidents, Gulf state leaders, and European officials. Israel is backed by several powerful allies, both in the region and globally. The US is Israel's strongest ally, providing military aid, intelligence support, and diplomatic backing. The US opposes Iran's nuclear ambitions and has supported Israel's efforts to counter Iranian influence in the region. Many EU, European Union, countries, while supporting diplomatic solutions like the Iran nuclear deal, have aligned with Israel on security matters, opposing Iran's destabilizing activities in the Middle East. In recent years, Israel has forged new alliances with several Gulf states, UAE, Bahrain, particularly after the signing of the Abraham Accords in 2020. These states, sharing concerns about Iran's regional ambitions, have begun cooperating with Israel on security and intelligence matters. The Abraham Accords signing and Israeli leaders meeting Gulf counterparts, allies of Iran. Iranian leaders meeting with Russian and Chinese counterparts, and footage of Hezbollah and other proxy forces. Iran, too, has a network of regional and global allies supporting its efforts against Israel. Iran's most important ally in its fight against Israel is Hezbollah. Based in Lebanon, this group receives financial and military support from Tehran and is a major threat to Israel's northern borders. Under President Bashar al-Assad, Syria has been a close ally of Iran, allowing Iranian forces to operate within its territory. This has made Syria a frequent target of Israeli airstrikes. Russia and China have supported Iran diplomatically, providing economic and military assistance. While they don't directly support Iran's fight against Israel, their backing of the Iranian regime helps Iran withstand international pressure. Iranian military exercises, meetings with Russian and Chinese officials, and scenes from the Syrian civil war, global protests, UN meetings, and energy crises linked to tensions in the Middle East. The Israel-Iran conflict affects not only the Middle East but also global security. As the region remains a powder keg, tensions between these two powers could potentially lead to broader regional wars, affecting global energy supplies, trade, and security. Oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, drones, and cyber warfare scenes. Will there be a breakthrough in diplomacy, or is a larger confrontation inevitable? As Israel and Iran continue to maneuver for influence, the stakes for regional and global stability have never been higher. While Israel and Iran have been locked in a shadow conflict for decades, their rivalry has profound implications for the future of the Middle East and beyond. Thank you for watching. We have some amazing videos coming up, so stay tuned to this channel for more updates on this and other global conflicts, and make sure to hit the subscribe button for more.